Hello, football family. Welcome in to Huddle It Up Films, previewing the Week 4 Denver Broncos game versus the Baltimore Ravens in Denver. Close game. Vegas has it at a -1, a pick-'em type game. It's going to be a great one, I think. And in to join me again to talk about this game, real Jake Vogel and Garnett Sergeant West over there. How you guys doing? All right?
Doing well.
Fantastic, guys.
Awesome. Well, hey, note before we start, Lamar hasn't been practicing these last 2 days. So I guess we should just take a audible here and talk about Lamar. Personally, I'm not too worried about this. I think he just needs the rest. Any concerns that he would miss the game or be limited in the game? Garnett, go ahead and take it away.
I'm not worried whatsoever. I think it was just something we just usually just put on the injury report, and then he just needs time to press, man. I don't think there's no big issues.
Yeah, I have to agree with Garnett there. Lamar's injury or soreness is really just that. It's just being sore. We didn't really see anything in the game that would lead us to believe he's going to be out for any extended period of time. He came back in and during the points of the game that the offense is out there. So hopefully they're just icing him up and he'll be ready like Steve Smith used to be.
Yeah, ice up, son. And hey, last time we really saw him throw a real pass, it was a 4th and 19 conversion, one of the best passes of his career, clutch situation. So, yeah, just had to bring that up. But the Broncos, focusing to the Broncos, now they're 3-0. Of course, they're getting a lot of flack for their 3-0 start because our opponents are combined 0-9. So what are we to make of this Broncos team? And how do you weigh that, Jake, between the 3-0 but the facing teams that are 0-9?
So it has been said before that the mark of a good team is beating poor opponents, beating them to a pulp or just winning. It's more of a clear indication of a strong team rather than playing close games with maybe even better competition. So I think Denver is legit. Their offense is led by Teddy Bridgewater, a steady quarterback, a guy that doesn't take too many risks, but their defense is what carries them. And they have an absolutely loaded secondary, a group that I would put ahead of Baltimore right now just because of injuries. You talk about Marcus Peters going out before the season, which was a huge blow. And then just the other guys that have gotten banged up here and there. So they have a star-studded group, and it's going to be difficult sledding in this game. We'll get to predictions later, but I don't necessarily see a huge score for Baltimore.
Giving them credit for their 3-0 start then. How about you, Garnett? You feel the same way? You can't choose who's on your schedule or
Yeah, you can't choose who you're on the schedule. You just play who you can play. You beat a team, was it 24-0 or I think it was 24-0 when they beat the Jets. You beat the team 24-0. You did what you're supposed to do. And I would say we went, I know as a flock, we always, I'm pretty sure we went pretty confident going to that Lions game thinking that we're going to put up, 20, at least hang 40 or maybe 30 some points on their hand when we didn't. And we all know why. We don't need to talk about it, but you just, you go in that game confident, you better hopefully you come out on top. But also with that being said, I know Kansas City is 1-2, shockingly, but Detroit, I think they have not won a game. And what's the team? And then the Raiders, that's the only undefeated team that we played. So when you really look at it, like our record ain't really, the teams that we played compared to the teams they played, it's not a huge gap record wise if you want to look at it that way. So it's all about how you want to look at it. But you just got to go treat your opponent like you treated your last, and just keep on treating everybody equally. And just that means have respect. So that's how I look at it.
And this time of year with the teams, towards the end of the year, you get some really poor play for some teams that are beat up and some guys that shouldn't be in the league. But this time of year, especially, the margin of error is really thin. So, all respect to this Broncos team. I'm not sleeping on them, but I see people demeaning them, saying they're not that good because of who they played. But I think this is a really solid team. One really at every position. So let's start with when the Ravens have the ball and we start on the line of scrimmage. Now, the Broncos front is undersized compared to what the Ravens usually see in the division. No player on this team is over 300 pounds as far as their regular snap counts. Now, they have Dayton Jones. He's a quick, small. He had 6.5 sacks in 2020. They have Harris, steady vet. Williams, third-year player, only has 11 starts. But, of course, it all starts and ends with Von Miller, who, man, I watched 2 Broncos games this week, and he looks as good as he's ever looked. So, hey, let's focus on Von Miller a little bit. But overall, how do you think the our big line stacks up against these guys?
Yeah, so I think our line is going to be, we can, I think, assort our dominance in a way against them, do with their line, across the board, having a line that's under 300 pounds, which is pretty crazy. But at the same time, though, you can't, they're pretty darn strong and pretty athletic. So that's one thing that we can, that's be a little bit worried about. But across the board, I just hope Villanueva has this weird pattern where I guess one game he has like a oh my God, I don't know what the hell he's doing game to a oh my God, you're incredible game. And I guess this is going to be this week that he has oh my God, incredible week. I hope. Makari, he just, I guess, hopefully just keep on staying consistent while the time being. And I just want to know what they're going to do inside for us. We know Zeiler is going to be the guy, and we know Bozeman is going to be the guy, but what are we going to do with the left guard? Are we going to let, Mr. Georgia himself be that right guard? The right guard or not? So a lot of questions to be asked internally, literally internally, when it comes to the interior side. But it's gonna be a war across the board, literally from left to right. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah. So for me, I watched a little bit of the Broncos all 22 that I could get my hands on, and I'm not necessarily impressed with their D line, their interior guys, but I saw some stuff from Malik Reed, number 59. He's another pass rusher for them on the opposite side of Von Miller when Bradley Chubb isn't in, and he has the sort of power, and he almost got there numerous times against the Jets. Granted, Jets aren't a very good team, but take that for what you will. Malik Reed does look like a good player, and if he has the power, that could be an issue for Alejandro Villanueva. And of course, when you're talking about a guy like Von Miller, you need to have a game plan. You have to be able to put guys into chip, get those tight ends involved, get the running backs involved. Hopefully, we have good pass pro this week, and this game is to be about what we can do running the ball and what we can do in the middle of the field, because those corners are really strong.
Yeah, I look at this as the Ravens have a big advantage on the interior, and the Broncos have a big advantage on the edges of this line. Von Miller and then Reed, like you said, both of them very good pass rushers. McCary's played his butt off, but Von Miller is a tough ask. McCary's going to need some help. But on the inside, against those smaller guys, and having Bradley Bozeman who can move, Powers can move some, Cleveland can move, Zeitler can move. So not only are we a big line, but we're a mobile line too. And I could see us pushing the Denver defensive interior around a lot. So we just really have to protect on that edges. And it's going to be interesting to see whether we can just neutralize Von Miller. Maybe we'll get into how we can do that later. But the run defense and the run game. Now, Denver, of course, has played, from ahead a lot. So their run defense really hasn't been tested in a way because they've had a lead and teams have had to throw on that good defense. But Josie Jewell, one of their key linebackers are out. Now, I love their guy, A.J. Johnson. He's the guy with the hair coming out of his helmet. If you want to look for him on Sunday, this man is a big old school linebacker, excellent blitzer, physical as heck. And he's one of their leading tacklers. Johnson plays almost every snap. He's just a thumper. And then, of course, you have 2 veteran safeties, really good safeties that help out in that run game. So Ravens have this week can tie the Steelers for 24 consecutive 100-yard games. How do you think the Ravens are going to do running the ball against this Broncos defense?
Yeah, so for me, it's huge that Josie Jewell is out. I don't wish injury upon any team, upon any player, but he stood out to me. He's playing really well. He's not known as a great athlete coming out of college, but he is very smart. He has it between his eyes, in his head. He's got the knowledge, and since he understands what offenses are trying to do so well, he ends up in the right place at the right time. So with him out, it helps our offense for sure running the ball. Johnson is going to be critical, and then I really think it's going to be about the safeties. You mentioned the pair of them without naming them. Justin Simmons is quite literally a top 3 safety in the NFL right now, and he's not just good in run support, but he is also one of those guys that's going to take the ball away if Lamar has any errant throws. So it's going to be critical for us to get downhill. Maybe some pulling guard action out of Ben Cleveland, or perhaps our other guys, Zeitler can do some stuff. And Bozeman has been solid all year. So the interior, as you mentioned, is going to be critical in pushing those guys around.
Yeah, and it's one of the things where I think with the linebacker play, without them having Josie Jill, who was a critical piece to their team, I think we could attack them up the middle. But at the same time, my biggest thing, which I'm not trying to go, into the secondary route, but the fact that Kareem Jackson is literally one of those guys that comes in like a bat out of hell, comes flying through the box, and he literally blows up plays. That's the one thing I saw from watching a couple of all 22 just plays or series, and literally he'll blow up a run play immediately, and that's the one thing that I'm worried about. But when it comes to I think our guards, time of possession will play a critical role with especially with our line versus their line. We're talking about it's just obvious thing that you got bigger guys and you got leaning on smaller guys, and the wear and tear, you're gonna give up eventually. You're gonna get tired. So it's one of those things where I just think hopefully we get at least a touchdown or a 10-point lead, and then hopefully we can just carry that all the way into the fourth, and then just go for the no more run defense for 60 minutes, and after that, I don't think they're gonna be number one defense after that. I believe that's what I believe.
Yeah, I think we're going to go straight ahead on this running game a lot and rely on our big interior. And then, when you talked about their safeties, they're interchangeable. Like the Ravens like to use Chuck Clark and Deshaun Elliott for Ravens fans. So they sit in that 2 deep shell, then they mix it up, and they really fill real hard when it comes to run defense. And I think we could see them try to take away Lamar by flooding the edges like we've seen other teams do with their safeties. So, my best plan of attack, I think maybe you guys agree with me, is just a Latavius Murray type game where you're just going up the middle on these guys, and maybe run some of that inverted option where you send Lamar up the middle. But that would be the soft spot in this run defense. Like you said, Garnett, stats can be deceiving. Number 1 run defense, but when you're leading a lot, you're not giving up. The run downs are predictable, and your teams aren't running the ball. They're trying to throw the ball to get back into the game. So we'll see if the Ravens can extend this streak versus Denver. The passing game, Jake mentioned it real quickly, but man, just a tough secondary. Pat Surtain, 6'2", 442, 9th overall pick. They have Fuller and Callahan's their slot guy from what I saw. So you have veterans all over the place. Now Fuller may be more of a name now than he is a game. I mean, he's still a very good player, but when you think of the Kyle Fuller of years past, I'm not sure he's playing up to that level. How would you attack these guys in the passing game, and what do you expect to happen?
The way I would attack them, to be honest with you, is literally it all depends with the Broncos. They play a lot of man. From what I saw, a crap ton of man, and the best way to beat a crap ton of man is literally put people in motion and literally catch. Don't let them get their hands on you. That's the one thing about these physical corners they got. the moment they get hands on you and they can direct you the way they want you to go, you're literally almost out of the play. Especially with Patrick Surtain. Surtain basically literally becomes a receiver after he redirects you and he turns his head and looks for the ball. Just that's I would like to see a couple maybe quick slants there here and there if they're playing maybe like 6 to 7 yards off. But most of the time though, it's really just have somebody in motion and basically just try to cause confusion. Rub routes, crossing routes, have them, get them out of place. That's where I feel like we should attack them. And also, I would like to see also 22 personnel be used. I would like to see Mr. Oliver be used a little bit more since we have those linebackers. Well, who's going to be replacing Josie Jewell? I would like to put those guys in the blender as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. So the corners stood out on tape immediately. Surtain is something special, and he's just a rookie. He's played 3 games, and he is seeing things out there, not even just in man coverage. He's seeing things in zone coverage, coming back to a play and completely blowing it up. Yeah, he is a monster out there. So I don't really know how much the Ravens wide receivers are going to separate versus these guys. I saw Callahan allowed a little bit of separation, but he has the recovery speed. So if you are throwing timing routes and you have it at the right point, you got to hit it right away because he does have that recovery speed, especially like on speed outs. So I mean, those guys are a top-notch unit. And just like Garnett said, I want to see some Mark Andrews in this game. I want to see some Josh Oliver. Even, you get in the red zone, what did the Ravens always used to do? They would throw to like the tight end 3, the tight end 2 for a touchdown when everybody's expecting that first guy, that primary read, and you backside play him, you play action, and you got the tight end free in the end zone. You just got to do something like that to get some scores in this game.
Yeah, I think Andrews has to be a part of this game plan and see if they put the small slot corner on him or see if they have one of these linebackers or more run defenders, really challenge them with Andrews. And then Sammy Watkins is where I would take my shots. I just think that his height, ball tracking, everything he has to offer, I would use him to stretch the field and try to keep these safeties out of the box a little bit. The little stop and go, little sluggo, things that aggressive safeties will bite on. So that's what I'm looking for. As far as Hollywood, I wanted to kick it back to Garnett and just do another round on this. Garnett, let's just talk about Hollywood Brown. He had the 3 big drops in this game, at least 2, maybe 3, however you see it. But just terrible drops. There's no other way to say it. The ball was placed in there like a pillow, and he dropped it. Now, last year he had a 3 to 4 game stretch where he struggled with the drops. So, let's just continue with this pass game. Hollywood versus Surtain probably is going to see a lot of Surtain in this game. But I want to focus on Hollywood. How are you feeling about him at the moment? Just talk about Hollywood as a player and what you expect.
See, I think he's going to be okay. I think mentally he's going to check out just fine. I don't see this happening like last year where he had a streak full of just drops. I'm gonna say I want to blame it on the visor. He should be wearing the visor in the dome. I'm just gonna say that. I want to come up with an excuse or something, but I think he's gonna be perfectly fine. The guy, I think he's gonna. If you really think about it, he has his moments, but he always bounces back. You know what I mean? When he does bounce back, it's a nice big bounce back, and I just think he just had that off game, just like how our defense had. When we played Detroit, a lot of missed tackles. I just think that, that day wasn't his day, but I believe him going against Surtain, though, I think if he can literally, best way I can put it is, I would like to see him be used on the comeback game. One thing about Surtain is I don't see him bite on a lot of double moves, but at the same time, though, I feel like Hollywood should be able to create that space on those deep comebacks or those nice intermediate routes that he's able to run. That he's really good at running, I should say.
Yeah, I agree with that. Hollywood to separate in every game this year. Route running is improving for sure. With T. Martin and Williams, great. And Hollywood's going to bounce back from this. This is not necessarily the best week in terms of matchups for that, but I could still see him having a big game. Hollywood is one of those guys that can take a 70-yard ball to the house. It could be a short pass. It could be a long pass. We are not going to know until it happens, but I think he's going to get separation. It's really what can he do through contact. Is he still injured? Is he still banged up? How's his ankle doing? We'll see. I mean, it'd be really nice if he got a ton of targets and a ton of receptions.
Mm-hmm.
It would. I think we target Hollywood early in this game on a short pass. If they're playing off coverage and giving Hollywood the respect that he usually gets with a little bit of a cushion, I could see us using him in the short pass games, little bubble screen, just get the ball in his hands, let him feel comfortable, let him get that contact in. Maybe he's a little angry and wants to fight for some extra yards this week, so that would be really nice. But overall, I'm on the Sammy and Andrews train this week. As far as long-term, though, with Hollywood, I don't expect him to struggle mentally and have a 3 or 4 game stretch where he has problems catching the ball. But I do think it could be something that rears its head again later in the season or something like that, because it seems like a concentration issue. And, the balls that he dropped were just so perfect. Mm-hmm. It's not like, okay, well, this was bad or this was bad. It just seemed like he was thinking ahead. He wanted to run before he got the ball in his hand. Because there's really not much of an excuse. They were that easy. But yeah, I'm looking for this. If he can eliminate this for the rest of the year, like I'm not going into this game scared that he's going to drop everything thrown to him. But I'm worried about that game in week 14, 15, 16, where it's a big play where he gets a little ahead of himself. And I hope he can clean that up. But what should be the general plan of attack on this defense? Now, I'm going to go first, actually, before I kick it to Jake. I mentioned it earlier. I want us to run up the gut. I want to use Lamar up the gut. I want to use Latavius Murray up the gut. I want to use Tyson up the gut. I don't think this is a Freeman type game. And in the pass game, I want to use Andrews. I want to use Hollywood, maybe even Duvernay on those jet sweeps. If they're playing man, put somebody in motion. Duvernay is going to have somebody trailing him and following him across the field. Somebody can't keep up with him across the field if we time that play right. So those are the 3 things I'm looking for. And this goes to Jake.
Yeah, I mean, you are spot on. I think this is an Andrews game for sure. I could also see Watkins and Hollywood getting involved maybe at an equal level. So the running game is going to be critical, like you mentioned. Plowing through the middle of the trenches is absolutely necessary when you're looking at the secondary. Those guys are going to have a little bit of concentration in the backfield because of what Lamar can do on the ground, but that will help running backs to get north-south pretty quick.
Excellent. Garnett, what's the plan of attack? How do we attack the Broncos on defense?
I would say just attack their defense, right?
Yeah, we're still on when the Ravens have the ball. What's the overall plan of attack here?
Oh, just pound them. Literally pound, play action. Hopefully we catch them out of position, especially those linebackers. I know we ain't talked about our defense going against their offense, but we're going to be doing the same game plans they're going to be doing against us, challenging the linebackers. That's the best thing for us to do. Wise, hopefully we can catch one of those corners sleeping, and then maybe we'll catch one of those safeties out of position, which I'm gonna say they're rarely out of position most of the time. So it's one of the things where you use 8 as your advantage because the corner is going to be looking at him at all times, which means your receivers really have an opportunity to make a play when the time comes. So yeah, but like I said earlier about Oliver, or just really it's just the third guy that is not expected to make plays, like either a Prochet or Duvernay, some of that nature, where like it really all depends on that guy that's not being game planned or schemed for, in the game plan. So that's what I would like to see. Just keep on adding those factors into the game every week. Prochet went 1 for 29 last week. Duvernay got a touchdown. Like, it's stuff like that I would like to see. I think that's a really good game plan to have. Pound on play action, and use your personnel selectively. Yeah.
So this is a time where I always like to hear comments below. How do you think we should attack this Broncos defense? It's a well-coached team. You can see just the way they play their game, man. You're gonna have it's going to take something to force them out of their game. We're going to have to get a lead. Early lead in this game would be really important, because we're about to go to this Broncos offense with Teddy Bridgewater, who's completing 75% of his passes. We're going to focus on the lines of both sides of the line first, but you're going to have to force this team into mistakes. Now, the Broncos offensive line and the offensive side of the ball is where they got hit with those injuries that we talked about in the beginning. Their guards are good. Both starting guards are questionable for this game. And that's Dalton Reisner and Glasgow, right?
Right.
Right. Yeah. Graham Glasgow. Sorry, I had a blank there, but yeah, a good line, a very good offensive line. But you're starting. Two of their guards aren't practicing. Didn't practice Wednesday. Didn't practice Thursday. So we'll have to see tomorrow if they get in a limited session. But either way, you're going to either be going against backups or banged up guards. Now, their backups are both young players who have been drafted the last 2 years. One is Nathan Mute, who was a big, strong, but unpolished player. A beast. I'm sure you guys watched them. I don't know if I was on Twitter yet for that, but man, that guy's a man-child. And the other one was Quinn Miners, who is the small school kid who came to the Senior Bowl and dominated. So those are their backups if the starters can't play. So they have talent, but when you're talking about Calais Campbell and all that experience, Matabike, if somebody's playing banged up, Brandon Williams looks like he's going to be back this week. So the Ravens should be at full strength, minus Derek Wolfe, of course, against this line. I kind of like this matchup. And what do you guys think about it?
Yeah, I love the matchup, but at the same time, I'm like how we said it earlier about almost darn near 15 or 20, about 15 minutes ago. Like, you just got to respect the opponent. And these young guys, like I fell in love with Quentin Miners. I actually wanted him on the Ravens due to just that he has that nasty mentality, like a Jensen, like we used to have back in the day, or I should say. But I feel like when it comes to stunts or just us, Wink call it dialing up those blitzes, I think Wink is like probably like this is Christmas came early to me because of the fact that we got lucky that we might be playing against these younger guys. So when it comes to the dialing up these blitzes, I think it's going to be a bounce back day for Queen and Harrison, big time, I believe, when it comes to that situation. But and also Matabike coming back. If he looked like how he looked like it versus that Kansas City when we played against Kansas City, oh my God, it's going to be nasty, I believe. And then Calais Campbell, especially with those stunts that he was doing with Justin Ellis the previous game with the Matabike, would be pretty damn near unstoppable at certain points in the game as well.
A lot of stunts you see, huh? A lot of
Yes,
games
sir.
made up front.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Justin Matabike could have a huge game. It depends on, how he's feeling. I don't think he ever actually had COVID. He was just the close. So that is good news for us. As well, Calais Campbell and having him on the field with, another game under his belt, coming back, that's going to be a good thing. And Adafe Owe, he was quiet this past game against the Lions, but I think having all of those horses back in the stable, no pun intended, going against the Broncos, am I right? It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to see what this D-line can do. Their offensive line is not bad. It's not as bad as some people think it is. But if those guys are out, you're talking about inexperienced players against our experience and our young guys that are coming on strong. So I feel pretty good about that battle.
Me too. I mean, I like the fact that Justin Houston's coming back, Oway's coming back. So we're getting slowly back to full strength against this line. And Denver's a good team all the way around. There's really not a weakness in their roster, but this is an advantage that we will have, our defensive line versus our offensive line. And I think it's really critical as we transition into the Broncos run game for our defensive line to step up in this run game because their backs are very, very, very talented. So control the line of scrimmage. Calais, Justin Ellis has played really well in his time there, really stepped up, played a bunch of snaps last week. He shouldn't have been playing, did well. Brandon Williams was off to a good start before he missed last week. Houston away. It's a talented group. It's a group that has started off strong. And this is where the Ravens really need to make their hay in controlling that Broncos offensive line. But in the run game, we have our own issues with tackling, mainly Patrick Queen. Love Patrick Queen as a person. Awesome, has interacted with me. At the same time, I got to call it out when I see it. And he has played. Last week was probably one of the worst games I'd seen him play. Just from every angle. I'm not going to go over all the things he did poorly because it was basically all parts of the game. So when you look at this Broncos running game, I kind of am a little bit nervous that they can control this game if we don't control the defensive line. Because when I look at Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, two different styles of runners, but they're very effective. And they could give Queen and Harrison and a group that hasn't played well for the Ravens some trouble. So what about this Broncos run game versus the Ravens run defense?
Yeah, so man, those are two good backs. They haven't averaged more than 4 yards a carry as a team so far, but they are 7th in rush yards. They will run the ball. It's not going to be something that they give super early. If we get a lead, they're still going to do it. Like they try to keep teams honest with it, and both of those guys can break big ones. Especially Gordon has already through the season. He had a really long run for a touchdown earlier. And what I've seen from Javonte Williams, a really powerful, aggressive runner out of North Carolina. He breaks tackles, and the kind of tackles that I've seen him break are the exact same kind of things that the Ravens have been giving up on, which is really unfortunate. So
yeah, Jake, I wanted to just add to your point. He reminds me a little bit of DeAndre Swift, who we just saw last week with his contact balance. Like Javonte Williams isn't like a Gus Edwards mow you over, but when you hit him, he just has a nice way of keeping his balance and keep going. Go ahead, Jake. Sorry about that. It was just a great point.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Similar to Swift, I think Swift is maybe a better receiving back than what we've seen from Javonte so far, but good contact balance. And the Ravens already practiced this week specifically on tackling. That was the first thing they did in practice the other day, tackling drills, which is a good thing to hear. John Harbaugh is a very good coach, and I expect to see growth in that area of the defense. Certainly effort will be there.
Now, Garnett, I'm interested to hear what you have to say here when it comes to the run game and Patrick Queen and Malik and our linebackers. Say what you have to say. I know we had some conversations offline, so I know this is a frustration point for all three of us, really. But go ahead, Garnett.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna, air it out. I guess the elephant in the room. So I'm glad. I'm pretty positive Mr. Rob Ryan and Wink let Mr. Queen and Harrison have it. Particularly Queen having. That's why I feel very confident in this game coming up against the Broncos that he's going to play with some anger. Get off blocks this time. Also, less false steps coming to the line, running into piles for no reason. Though, like I said, we had our run-ins with with Patrick Queen, and it was positive. But at the same time, though, it's like, we will be doing the wrong thing if we didn't call them out on some BS. And, we're true fans. We love the game. We respect the game, and we're just going to do the right thing. That's the one thing I just want to say. But I'm very confident that Queen is going to do a hell of a lot better this week. He's not, that's the one thing that I used to play linebacker going up. And the one thing that I was taught, and it never left my head. and it was this term: play away, I stay. Counter boot is my play. So when pretty sure all of us are football savvy that's either watching this, and the one thing that means is basically you watch what's happening with the guards, and then you literally make sure the running back don't fall for the first step, but at the same time you better be moving to where that step it should be going. And I think Queen, he's going to come back with at least having 10 tackles in the game, at least 3 tackles for loss. That's what I'm predicting, because I know Rob Ryan and him have some personal talks. And I think
I hope so. I hope so. And I mean, I think it was on this show last week or the week before where we were talking about it. And I'm like, look, he's going to have his bad moments, but he's going to have his splash moments. And it looks like it's getting worked out. And I think the bad plays are disappearing slowly. And then, bam, man, this game happens. And I mean, it's just like, it kind of floored me and really frustrated me, especially as an old school, guy who played in the 90s. It's like, see it and hit it. Don't come in with these. Like if Queen tackled like Chuck Clark, who puts on an absolute clinic when it comes to tackling, getting low, being the low man, wrapping, not being afraid to put his helmet on the ball, put your shoulder in there and just wrap. Like that's what we need to see from Queen. If he's not seeing things in the run game clearly and he gets caught out of position, that's something I feel like I can live with as a fan, because that's just going to get better with experience. But when it's your turn to tackle, Patrick, just tackle. Just tackle. Let's not go for the big hit, or let's not shy away from contact, whatever it is. I'm not in his head, so I don't know. But let's just tackle like a good old-fashioned tough football player. And, I'm trying to just stay relaxed about this, because I grew up in the Ray Lewis era, the Bart Scott, you name it, whoever was next to Ray, CJ Mosley, all those guys were just sound physical football players. So if we can get that out of Patrick Queen, he's going to be one of the best linebackers in the game, because he makes plays that nobody else can make. But big game for him here, because like Jake mentioned, and I saw the same thing when I was scouting, Denver will not go away from the running game. They will stick with it. They're, like I said, very well coached, and it's hard to get them out of their game plan, which is a great transition to their pass game. Unique passing game. Teddy Bridgewater's completing 75% of his passes. The ball will come out on time, quickly, and then they'll take their deep shots like appropriately. Again, it's just like a really well-coached team all the way around, offense, defense, and it's hard to get this team off their game. So the two big misses, the storylines of the week, Jerry Jeudy has been out. I think he got hurt in week 2. This week, KJ Hamler, who really stretched the field for them, is now out. So they basically have, the tight end is 6'4" or 6'5" too. Noah Fant is one of their bigger weapons. Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick on each side. They're both 6'4". So we're kind of luck out that we're not facing Jerry Jeudy and Hamler. But Anthony Averett is not a big cornerback, which kind of worries me that he's going to be on one of these bigger men. We have Jimmy Smith back to match up. So how do you see the Broncos' quick passing game compared to our defense?
Yeah. So I wish Tim Patrick just had more opportunities in Baltimore at the time, but man, I'm glad to see him shining right now. I'm just be honest, as a football fan, I'm glad, man, mad respect, and I love it. On the other hand, holy crap, this is going to be tough, because these are two grown ass men on the outside on both sides. And the one thing about them guys, it's a security blanket for Mr. Teddy Two Gloves, as they call him. If he can throw it up, and he knows that they're going to get it. It's crazy. Tim Patrick has not dropped the ball since 2019, which is crazy. That's mind blowing, right? So it's one of those things where like that just shows like how much secure Teddy feels with that. And then on the other hand, Sutton is a big dude that came out of SMU. Teammates with James Prochet II back in the day. Yes, both got dog mentalities, ridiculous. And the thing about Mr. Sutton, his route running is superb for a big guy. It's not, and it's think about it. He can finesse you and then out physical you the same way. So Marlon, to be, what I want to make it short and quick to let you guys go. But Marlon is going to have a tough day. But at the same time, though, him going against Sutton, it's like a perfect matchup for him because he wants to play physical with them. So, but when it comes to Avery, like you said, Jason, it's one of those things. It's going to be rough. I can't really. It's going to be a dogfight. That's all I can say.
Yeah, it's
about
just
that.
not his kind of guy, Garnett.
Yeah, yeah.
Avery can lock down Tyreek Hill, you
Right.
know, and struggle with a guy like Sutton or Patrick. It's just, a skill set. It's a matchup game, man. So not having, before Jake goes, I want to say too, not having Deshaun Elliott, who looks like he could miss some time, is really going to complicate things because the Ravens don't have another proven asset on the back end aside from Jimmy Smith. But this would be a game where you'd say, oh, look, Jimmy, we need you to play 40, 50 snaps against these big receivers, tight end. So that's going to put it on Brandon Stevens or a Geno Stone in the back end, or you use Stevens to cover, do some corner duties and leave Jimmy deep. So, man, it's just a lot to think about, Jake. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, you guys talked about it pretty well. Cortland Sutton has been really good since week one. I think he had a slow week one, and then he's been on fire. Teddy has good chemistry with him, and he takes a lot of shots at him, to him, I should say. So Sutton's getting targeted. They, like we mentioned, they run the ball a lot and they keep you honest, which in turn gives you a nice play action game if executed well. And that's something that they do very well, especially to Cortland Sutton. So lots of deep shots, plenty of air yards for him. And I think the same thing can be said for Tim Patrick. I think Averett will be okay, perhaps not as bad as you guys are leading on against either of them, but especially, I don't know. I'm actually not sure who he would do better on. I would say put him on Patrick and have Marlon on Sutton, but maybe we see some Jimmy Smith on some of those guys, and they don't have a very strong wide receiver number 3. I did see Kendall Hinton with a nice catch. He was the wide receiver that played quarterback last year.
Yes.
Kind of simulating like a Lamar type player. But he's not bad. He can run routes and he can catch the ball on the sideline. But as we get further in Broncos passing game, I want to mention I'm a little scared of Albert O and Noah Fant.
Yeah, that's all I was about to bring.
The tight ends have gotten us. We did a good job against Hawkinson, and I was very surprised that we were able to do that. I think a big part of it's Jimmy Smith, but having both of those guys in this game and the big receivers, it seems like there's going to be somebody that we can't cover really well, and perhaps that's Brandon Stevens' job to get in there and contribute.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I'm glad you said. I was about to ask you about that and see what you're saying. And then with that Anthony Averett, real quick. Like I remember when we played 2019 against the Seattle Seahawks, he had duties against DK Metcalf, and he did fairly well, to be honest with you. But at the same time, it was one of those things where I just want to see if he can keep up the momentum after that performance he did against what's the boy name? Tyreek Hill. So hopefully, just the momentum just carries on. I think, like I said, it's going to be a dogfight for him, but I think he can hold it down.
Yeah, with Denver's, injuries at receivers and the fact that they have 2 good tight ends in Fant and Alberto, I could see a ton of 12 personnel for them.
Right.
With 1 running back, 2 tight ends, just the 2 receivers. Try to keep a Chris Board or a Malik Harrison on the field. And when all this attention goes to these 6'4" tight ends, their main weapons, a guy like Albert O playing the Nick Boyle role on their team for Ravens fans that want a comparison, where he only gets a few targets a game, but darn, it's just hard to defend when you're putting all your resources into the other guys. Short-handed guy, big, strong guy who can block as well. So he's blocking for 67 snaps, but those 3 snaps that he goes out and he's matched up on Harrison could be a problem around the goal line. So this is really a test that leads us into the game plan for Wink. How should we attack these guys? Now, last week we had a great discussion on whether it was going to be a Kansas City game plan, a half wink, or a full wink. I think we saw like a full wink. I think I won in the first half, but then I think Garnett won in the second half. So I think Jacob with the half wink kind of won overall. I'm not even sure how to call that, but we were calling all kinds of safety blitzes in the first half, and it worked. And then for whatever reason, we went away from that, which kind of bothered me, by the way, a little bit. I would have liked to have seen Tavon and Elliott get a couple sacks. So, but the Broncos, though, how do we attack them on defense? What should be the game plan?
So you kind of mentioned it, Jason. I would like to see a more aggressive wink in this game, perhaps a full wink, because the offensive line could be without some of their starters. The inexperience lends itself to confusion. Have a defensive coordinator like Wink Martindale, you have a lot of options, a lot of possibility for havoc and confusion created by stunts, by loops, and also blitzes and just schemed pressure as well, where perhaps you're not sending 5 guys. You might be sending 4 guys, but one of them is an outside corner, Mr. Jimmy Smith. So this game could be interesting in that way. We just have to wrap up Teddy if we get into the backfield. You can't let him escape, because an underrated aspect of his game is his elusiveness back there. I mean, I saw him get out of some pressures that looked like he was going to be taken down, and he didn't.
He did, yeah, he did do that. Garnett, how are we attacking, buddy?
Yeah, it just man. To be honest with you, it's one of the things where you just literally got send the heat right off the middle on him for a couple times. Just go full wink a couple times, like unexpectedly on a first down or something. Just to oh shit, they're coming. Excuse my language, but it's one of the things where just you can't. One thing about Teddy, you cannot. It's hard to really get Teddy off his rocker. Teddy is one of those guys. He's just gonna stay. You might do something to him, but he's gonna come back and stay calm the whole time, and he's just gonna try to work his magic. But if you so it's our job to make him uncomfortable the whole time, man. And that's the one thing that I feel like that's the game plan where we're gonna have. That's why I say I agree with the full wink this week. I just find it funny that Jake is in the middle, so he right. Either full wink or no wink, and he's right there. That's crazy. But
as a matter of fact, like I'm on the left, so that makes me like the progressive.
Yeah.
Full wink. Jake's, you're moderate, and then Garnett was conservative on the right. So like all we were missing was like the red, blue, and purple clothes there on the thing. But hey, back to the game plan though. Chuck Clark, I think, is big in this game. From a pressure standpoint and from a Bridgewater standpoint, Teddy's going to get the ball out quickly. He's a 2.5, 3 second ball out short game. They have the big receivers to be able to do that too, where they just get the ball in their hand and make us tackle. I think Chuck Clark is really important to this game plan, as far as you guys see him freestyle around the line of scrimmage a lot, where he's got his eye on the back, or maybe it's Alberto he's attached to. But if he sees the back or Alberto in, he's just going to find a lane and try to get his hand. Like, this won't be a sack game for us, I don't think. But I think it's a good game to get in the passing lanes, get our hands up, and try to disrupt Teddy and get him off his rhythm. It's like we saw with the Steelers games last year, it's going to be that kind of short passing game where the sacks and the pressures are going to be misleading. Like when your PFF marks down the pressures, they're going to be like, well, he wasn't within this many feet of him. Well, that doesn't matter. Get in with his line of vision, get your hands up. That's a pressure to me. Pressure is like one of the hardest things to really put a gauge on. I think there's a lot of fake pressures counted for pressures, and you know what I mean? And a lot of guys who flash in the quarterback's face in the first second isn't counted as pressure, but it directly affected the play. So, but yeah, it's going to be a tough game overall. So overall thoughts on this game. This would be a time to give predictions if you want to do, or what we have to do to win, or what are you looking for? So let's wrap it up here with the overall assessments.
Hey, what was the last thing you just said?
Overall assessments?
No, before that.
Predictions?
What? Nope. Wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
That's what we got to do. We got to wrap. We got to wrap.
Tony Garnett, you and your high comedy. I didn't keep up mentally, man.
Well, my bad. No, you good. No,
like
but
only one not to get it, man. That sucks.
It's all good. Hey, you on the boat with us now, so we're good. We're sailing.
Wrap
But
it up, man.
yeah,
Wrap up. Tackle, man.
yeah, wrap up. That's all we got to do. Like literally, I think Wink is gonna do his job. All we got to do is execute. What we mean by execute, just tackle. We're gonna be there. Like if that last game against Detroit, we were there. We just didn't finish. And I think, like I said, Mr. Rob Ryan and Wink, I know they had a hell of a film session, and I think that's not going to be an issue this week, I believe. So with that being said, I feel very confident in the team. Offense wise, I think we're going to do well, but as a whole, I think we got it. I think we're gonna be able to do it. I'm not gonna give a score, but I just feel like read your keys, execute, and just do your job. I think Jimmy is gonna play a vital role in this game as the deep safety. Last game he played a lot of safety snaps, and I think this week he's gonna play a lot of safety snaps again. So I think he's gonna do a hell of a job this game.
I like that a lot. For me, this is kind of an old school game. The Ravens are going to want to wrap up, like you said, and they are also going to show. They're going to show the NFL and they're going to show the Broncos who the real defense is. I mean, right now it's Denver. I mean, you look across the league; they are probably the number one defense in the NFL. Baltimore has a chance in this game to kind of turn the table and say, guess what? In this game, we have the better defense and we are going to outperform your unit. So I could see it being a somewhat close game. Tucker is going to matter. He's kicking in Denver, which is a lot of fun. But I'm going to give a fun prediction here. Baltimore will have an interception in this game on defense, and it's going to be from one of their corners. I don't know who. It could be Jimmy as well, which I know you're saying that he's going to be playing safety. I still kind of refer to him as a corner. But I expect at least one interception in this game from the Ravens defense. And the negative side of that is I could very easily see one interception the other way just because Justin Simmons is one of those guys. But ultimately, I think Baltimore has what it takes to win this game. They can get out of here and hopefully finish up this first quarter, if you want to call it that, in a 17-game season, 3-1. I really hope so.
Yeah, you know what, Jake? It wouldn't surprise me if Jimmy's playing just a corner, a lot of corner, on Tim Patrick or Cortland Sutton, just because of the size, and have Averett kind of switch with them, or some pre-snap looks where they switch it up, some zone type stuff maybe. It's going to be interesting to see how we match up with their receivers. What I'll say on this game, something I sent out a couple of days ago, is I think that getting a lead in this game is more important than it normally is. It's always important to get out first score wins, that kind of thing. But in this game, to get Denver out of their game, you have to earn it. You have to earn it because we mentioned they're going to stick with the run. We mentioned they're going to take care of the ball. We mentioned Bridgewater's high completion percentage. We mentioned how they trust their defense. So they're not going to try to do too much. So the Ravens have to earn that. To get them out of their game, the easiest way to do it is to get a lead and to get a negative play. Like, they handed off to Gordon. We need Calais Campbell or Matabike to meet them in the backfield for a 2 or 3 yard loss. Get those 2nd and 12s, those 3rd and 12s, that kind of thing. That's going to be a key for the game. Overall, I think if both teams play their A game or both teams play their B game or both teams play their C game, I still think the Ravens come out on this. All things equal, I guess, is what the best way to say it. The Ravens come out on top of this, but they're going to have to earn it. This is not a team that's going to give you much. The Ravens slip up, Denver's going to have control of this game. So, mailbag this week. Jake is going to take the mailbag. It's his turn to host. So Garnett and I get to sit back, relax, and just answer some questions. Must feel good, Garnett.
Yeah, my shoulders feel a little light today, so I'm good.
How's the back, man?
Yeah.
How's the back, okay?
Oh, yeah, we're good,
All right.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we got our buddy Eric G. Clark at Greatness Calls on Twitter to send in some questions for us. So here's what he said. Von Miller has been a beast even after chip blocks. Tell me why I shouldn't have nightmares about Sunday. You guys want to hit up that real quick?
He said why he shouldn't have nightmares. I'm just gonna keep it real. You're gonna have nightmares. I'm sorry, man. So I actually before we got on here, I was watching a video of Von Miller giving his press conference, and he's like he told his team like this is like he didn't say a war, but I look at it like since military, it's like he has a war ready mindset, and he's treating this game like this is a playoff game to him. So and he understands that we're a playoff team, and this is the best way to it's a benchmark test to see where we actually are. So and Von Miller, he's off defensive player of the AFC defensive player of the month already. So he's in his bag already, man. So it's one of those things. Players like him, you can't stop them, but you can what's the word I'm looking for? Contain them, I guess you can say that. But at the same time, though, I'm sorry, Eric. You might want to get a what do you call those things, like the nightmare catchers or whatever, the things that they used to give out. Yeah, the dream catchers. Have that right there for you, pal. That's all I can tell you, though. I'm sorry.
Hey, he's the one guy that can really wreck this game. Now, what I mean by that is another guy might get an interception off of his pressure or that kind of thing. But Von Miller doing the read option to his side might not be a great idea. When it comes to just straight pass protection, it's going to be tough. McCary, luckily, Von Miller plays a lot on that over the right tackle, Eric. So you might see McCary on Von Miller a lot in this game. Luckily, McCary has the feet, but when you're talking about Von Miller, that's another level of speed around the corner. So a guy like McCary, even who is light on his feet, is going to have problems. I would like to see Ricard stay in a lot, maybe some spread formations. Maybe Ricard is in pass pro. Maybe he's our only running back in the game. We have 4 receivers that we can hit them with, try to get to the end of their cornerback depth. But yes, it's going to be my main worry in the game. They have a lot of great players on defense, but in my opinion, Von Miller is the one that's going to press the issue and cause Lamar to make a mistake if Lamar's going to make one. So, yeah.
Yeah, you guys hit that 100%. Then Eric went on to ask, first he comments, Melvin Gordon is a capable receiver. With Swift's effectiveness on short passes, do you see Wink prioritizing stopping that, or are the Denver wide receivers too good to worry about that?
Well, I think that's a thing that they're going to test out early. I would expect them to test the screen passes out, and if we're missing tackles like we have been last week, then they go away from it. But with them missing, KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy, I could see them trying to get something out of their backs in the pass game, like we saw Detroit have success with against us. So if Denver just watched the tape from last week, I could see them using both Williams and Gordon in that role.
And the one thing I just comment on this, to be honest with you, what's the guy named Odafe Owe? I can't believe I almost forgot his name. That's crazy. But every week his game gets better. Like we already knew he was a good run stopper, but the one thing that I'm noticed about him is the fact that he's beginning to sniff out plays. And when it comes to screens, me and Jason were quite aware. I used you too, Jake. There used to be a certain individual in our defense in the past that was good at sniffing out screens.
Yep, sure
was. So I'm not saying he's going to be the next sizzle or whatever, but the fact that I feel completely confident and aware of, feel comfortable with Owe and also with Houston. I think their intellect is pretty damn high, when it comes to being on the field. So I feel confident with the running back coming out of the backfield or screens are happening. I think we can maintain that. And also Bowser, this would be a good game for him to bounce back as well.
Yep. You absolutely hit that exactly right too. He was struggling with wrapping up, not tackling very well, which is disappointing. And I think he got a talking to, just like Patrick Queen and those linebackers. So this should be a bounce back game. They know that they played pretty terribly against the Lions, and they should want to take it out on Denver. So let's see what happens. We got another question from Eric G. How do you think Denver will use the best safety in the NFL in Justin Simmons? Right here, I'll elaborate. So he kind of hits a couple questions in a row. attempt to neutralize Andrews, spy Lamar, double Hollywood, or all of the above?
With the safety or just
with Justin Simmons? That's the question.
I think from the previous film that I watched, I think they're going to use Justin on the back end more, and I think Kareem is going to be the guy that comes up. But then again, it's weird, man. Like you said, like how Jason said, they can both switch. They can intertwine. They can do either or, vice versa. But I think it just took one clip of me to watch Kareem Jackson to literally fly in 15 yards and literally just go airborne and fuck up a play. I'm sorry, I had to cuss on this one. Like, it's one of the things where once I saw that, I was like, holy crap. It's one of the things where I fell in love with the guy, but at the same time, it's like, man, he can really just destroy the play. And then the previous, I think the next series or series after that, Justin Simmons gets an interception like on the right side of the hash, like 23, 30 yards downfield. So it's like, man, I'm sorry, Eric, I don't know how I can answer that. It's just one of the things where we just got to catch them off guard, buddy. Like, literally pound the rock, play action, and hopefully we get that one-on-one somewhere.
I'm going to try to make Eric feel a little bit better on this. So, and by the way, Mr. West is a sergeant in the Marine Corps, but he cusses like a sailor. Learned that today. But yeah, I don't see, to answer Eric's question, I don't see them using Justin Simmons on Andrews a lot. Like, I'm sure it'll happen within the course of the game. It usually does. Your safety is going to be matched up in a certain situation, just the numbers, pre-snap read, that kind of thing. But I think that they want him to flood the edges, to freestyle, to spy Lamar, like you mentioned, Eric, to play loose in this game, especially since they have another veteran safety who can hold it down. So I expect him to be freestyling all over the place. I mean, obviously Justin Simmons, one of the best in the game. He can do it on both ends. A true either free safety or strong safety. He can cover both duties, man to man. He can do everything. But their second best player, to me, according to Miller, aside from Miller. But yeah, I don't see him locked up on Andrews. I would say a freestyle, more spying Lamar, more flooding the edges, more maybe a couple of blitzes in there. I could see Justin Simmons being the jack of all trades in this game.
Yeah, absolutely agree with both of you guys. To me, he seems like he'll be all over the field for sure. Not necessarily matching up with Andrews most of the snaps. I think he's going to be paying attention to Lamar and also trying to make sure that the top of the defense is secure in Denver. Next up, we have Chuck Clark. Played an amazing game last week. Which role of his will have the biggest impact on the Ravens' chance of winning on Sunday?
Yeah, I think no, this is Garnett. Go ahead, buddy.
Oh, this me? Oh, okay. I think Chuck Roll will play a key part. I think what I mean by a key part, he's going to have everybody lined up to where they need to be, because the one thing that I really saw with the Denver, I should have touched on a little bit. They do a lot of clear outs with their tight ends. When they do two tight end sets, I should say, what they'll do, they have Noah Fant come across and he'll just go up the field, and then there'll be a tight end right behind him, and he'll just sit literally right where he cleared it out at. And I think when it comes to Chuck, I think he's going to basically alert the linebackers or whatever, just Chuck being Chuck. High IQ guy. But I think that's the main thing Chuck is going to do, put people in the right place, make sure they understand their jobs, and then basically it's going to be on them to execute. Now, if Chuck gets put in a one-on-one situation, he's always been able to handle his duties, I guess what you can say.
Yeah, I said earlier, I hope Chuck is actually does what I just mentioned with Justin Simmons.
Right.
I want to see him not concentrate on a man. I want to see him, like Garnett said, set the defense, tap people on the hip, tell them where to go, be around that line of scrimmage as much as possible, and to get in the passing lanes and cause some havoc on Teddy Bridgewater. Now, he could lock up Noah Fant, but if I had to say, I would like to see Chuck in when they go to two tight ends at 12 personnel, to have Chuck lined up against Albert O and just expect Albert O to block, try to find a way to beat him, try to figure out where the first read is, where the ball's going to go, and then just put himself in a nice spot. And with these big receivers too, I expect another high tackling game from Chuck, a number of tackles. In other words, if he can read, he's our smartest player on defense. Justin Houston plays a different position, but Chuck is the IQ, the brain of this defense. I could see him reading out where the ball is going to go and being the first man to the ball with of course, with the guy who's guarding the receiver.
Yes, sir.
Yep, agreed with that. That is it for the Huddle Box. Make sure to send us more questions each week, guys. We will send out a post or multiple posts on Twitter with hashtag HuddleBox. That can be capitalized or not capitalized. We will find it either way. Send in those questions. If we have enough, we'll do a separate episode just for that.
Yeah, and thank you, Eric G, for keeping the segment going. I appreciate you very much, brother. Have your tweets up on there, and don't be afraid for anybody else to DM me. Even if you're a YouTube viewer, you want to go ahead, create a Twitter account just to ask me a question. Maybe I'll be checking the old video comments to get some more questions in there. I would love to build it up to where we can have a separate segment. So, guys, thank you very much for joining me. Another good episode. I wanted to also say we've been pretty spot on with a lot of our predictions so far. Toot our own horn here at the end, but man, we've been pretty much calling a lot of things. If you go back and look and watch, we've been doing it. Yeah, back and pat. Pat yourself on the back. Yeah. But we've done a good job. I'm really enjoying this shows, and I really thank you two for joining me on that. So with that in mind, love you, football family. Football is family. Say goodbye to the people, fellas.
All right, man. We love y'all. God bless.
God bless.
See you guys.